And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to Ignite Thursday. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. It looks like everything is up and running. Kind of waiting for everybody to come in here, but I want to go ahead and get some administrative stuff out of the way and simply say that I am offering one-on-one coaching. If anybody is interested in doing one-on-one coaching, please let me know. You can DM me on Instagram, or you can possibly just go ahead and email me at coaching@discoverignite.com and can set up some one-on-one coaching with you. But ultimately, today's topic is something I don't really talk about. I normally talk about a lot of development stuff. And today, or this past week, I've been kind of like looking for a theme for this week. So I went on Reddit, and like I typically do, right? That's why I like doing the Reddit series. But ultimately, I was looking on there, and I found a particular question. My life feels worthless, and so that's a topic I wanted to kind of bring up, especially in a given situation that we are currently in, right? A lot of people may feel this way, or possibly during other times in your life. I know even for myself, right? There are many times, even as much progress as I've made throughout my life, I still get to points, excuse the train, I still get to points to where I feel like my life feels worthless, right? Even though you may achieve a lot, you still feel that emptiness inside sometimes. And when I was reading this particular post, again, sorry for the train. That threw me off a little bit. But I was reading this particular post. The guy was talking about how his life, how he had all these things essentially he wanted in life. But ultimately, what was going on was the fact he really wasn't feeling fulfilled, right? And you feel worthless, right? He said he was gaining weight. He said he quit his job. He said he was doing all these other things. He wasn't satisfied. And, I can relate to that in many ways, and I'm sure many of you guys can as well. But what's going on, Melanie? How you doing? But ultimately, when you are looking at your life, right, a lot of people will say, you should look back and reflect. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Because I know even for myself, like I'll reflect on things that I've done, and that kind of just gives you like essentially what you're capable of, right? And that does help. And it allows you to go at other things and experience new things with a know-how of saying, well, I got essentially a reference point knowing that, hey, I can achieve something because I have done it before. I've proven to myself I've done it before. But when you have that sense of feeling worthless, right? I think it's ultimately because of the fact that you are looking for some kind of external thing to essentially validate you, right? Being said, finding purpose is something I have talked about before, and finding flow, right, is something. If you are restricted to your experiences, if you are restricted, perhaps you don't read a lot or whatever the case is, you may feel like you may feel worthless, right? Or maybe you haven't achieved a lot in your mind, right? Like even in my mind, I feel like I don't achieve a lot. I feel like there's more I can be doing, even though sometimes I feel like I kind of overextend myself sometimes. Ultimately, I think feeling worthless, right? You really have to find the things that you enjoy. And even though like I in particular have found things that I enjoyed, so I can kind of feel that void of having purpose. There again, you still have times where you do feel worthless, right? Even as many things as you have achieved. But the biggest thing to do is when you feel like that during those particular times, you need to change it up, right? You need to feel alive again. And one of the biggest things I've always done, I know like cold therapy is something that I've done quite frequently. I've talked about meditation a lot, especially lately. I've talked about grounding yourself, meditating. These things help you feel alive, right? It's disconnecting. There we go. So ultimately, I've really found like cold therapy has helped. And essentially you do this is something I've done, where you essentially engulf yourself in like you have a normal hot shower, and then you essentially engulf yourself for like 2 minutes in cold water, right? And it helps essentially waken your nervous system up, so where you're more focused, you're more aware, it puts you in the now, right? And I talk about the now all the time. That's ultimately what it is, right? Because a lot of times when you're feeling worthless, you're thinking about either the past or the future, and you're not thinking about now, and that you can change now. And it's also something I've talked about being in the now and how important that is. And when you're feeling worthless, again, you need to change your environment, right? You need to go out and allow yourself to experience new things. And maybe you need some perspective. Maybe you need to just read a new book. Maybe you need to go out and maybe it's a class that you've wanted to take and you never took it before, right? You need to find your flow. Again, ultimately, you have to find purpose. And it can be hard because from what this guy was talking about, right? He said he had gained all this weight. He said he was struggling, right, to find motivation. He wanted those things. But we forget that a lot of times what it is, you need to push yourself to do it for at least that 21-day period, right? So you can build new routines to allow yourself to achieve those things that you want, right? Because you have the awareness that, okay, this is something I do want to do, but how do I make it stick? And the only way to make it stick is by getting up, just taking it day by day and making sure that it's getting executed. And when you execute on it and making that a priority, right? Because I talk about how you should make yourself priority when it comes to your goals and ideas, right? And essentially establish those boundaries so that make sure that during that day, you are executing on that one thing for yourself, right? Because again, you want to establish that foundation that allows you to be able to grow and foster. Because if you don't have that for yourself, right, it's hard to give that to somebody else and to provide support and to provide whatever the case may be. You will burn out, and you'll get to a state to where you start neglecting yourself and then find yourself in a predicament that you don't want to be in. But we have to also understand that everything comes in cycles. So we just have to get through that sense of worthlessness, right? And again, just doing little things to establish it. I know like sometimes it seems overwhelming for me. And so again, I will try to change my environment up, do something new. And typically, exercise, any kind of activity will help with this a lot. And just get up and move, right? You don't have to be a runner. You don't have to be a weightlifter. You don't have to be any of these things. You just got to be active every day, right? Because that helps allow you to, release those endorphins that help the this feeling of worthlessness, right? Because you're thinking about perhaps an event in the past or an event in the future that is not allowing you to be in the now and realize that you can change anything now by the efforts you put forth in the day. But being said, so cycles, again, I've talked about, things come in cycles. You have your ups and your downs in your life, and to ultimately to do better, right? You have to realize that in the down parts, not to take them so critical as you will, even in the high times, right? Because they're always going to cycle. But being said, if you feel like that, again, you need to change your environment. You need to perhaps read something new. You need to go out and do something that's going to allow yourself to change that thought process, right? Because ultimately, when you start thinking this way, again, your brain's going to hone in on that pattern, and it's only going to find those particular patterns. And so if you feel like you're worthless, right, you're going to get stuck in that pattern. So you're going to look for every little thing that you do in your day that essentially reiterates to yourself, yeah, I'm worthless, right? And so you start nitpicking on yourself. And to be able to do that, you have to be conscious of it and then start thinking of something more positive about your life, more fulfilling about your life. Again, it can go back to reflection and what you've achieved to this point. That does help. But ultimately, you want to, again, just get out. And a lot of times nature helps with this. You may feel like you're not a nature person, but it does help, right? The calmness and the quietness of the outside, unplugging from the TV, from the news, from all these things that are going on, especially lately, it allows you to get to that point, right? To where you can start focusing on yourself and realizing that you have value. And again, this is going to be a struggle, right? It's not saying you're going to get to a point to where you're going to be perfect at this, right? I have not mastered this. Nobody has mastered this. It's just using the tools that you have to essentially put you back in a better state is what you're trying to do. Again, through breathing, through meditation, through cold water therapy. There's a bunch of different things, right? And even for myself, like you gotta not only keep your body active, but it's good to keep your mind active. And in saying that, I was actually doing some research this week, and a happy Thursday. Nice of you to join, Yuko. It's been a while. It's nice to see you on YouTube, actually. Hopefully you can hear me on Instagram, Melanie. I know I don't have my ear pods in, so I know it might be a little bit of echo, so I do apologize for that. Well, there's Melanie's asking, is cold therapy the same effect as cryotherapy? I've never actually done cryotherapy. I know cryotherapy is more of a it helps for like body aches and pains and stuff like that. Cold therapy is more for like being just alert, right? Because I said going in a shower, and after you have your normal shower, you turn down the cold water, and it shocks your nervous system, right? Because your body is essentially one big nervous system, and if you shock the nervous system, it puts you in the now, causes you to focus, and that's where you want to be. It helps you train you, right? Like I've talked about meditation and how it puts you in the now. And if you really want to like get a one-on-one with like being in the now, you do cold therapy, and that will essentially put you right in the now. Hey, Angela, how you doing? So that's what it essentially does. It's forcing you to be in the now and allowing yourself to focus on that. And again, it's where you make all your changes, right? If you are, again, worried about feeling worthless, like the topic of today, that helps, right? Is putting yourself in the now, waking yourself up, changing things up. I've found that even by doing the cold therapy, like it's allowed me to stop, again, thinking in the past or the future. Yeah, flight or fight. Yeah, that's pretty much what it does. Yeah, it puts you right there, which helps. Helps a lot. So, but being said, feeling worthless, you're falling into psychos. The power of choice, right? I think we can get caught up too when you are. Sometimes I've been reading this book too about the power of choice. Like before, I know when I was growing up, like you didn't have much choice, right? You had very limited a variety of things, and when you have too much choice, you can almost get paralyzed by choice, right? And the book talks about this too, which is quite amazing. Is that if you can eliminate choice, right? And this is why I've talked about like Einstein and how he eliminated a lot of different like wardrobe choices in his life, because you are essentially every time you have all these choices, right, you're expending energy onto what you're trying to wear, and you only got so much allotted energy for the day. And being said, you get overpowered by different choices, right? You always feel like you could possibly even do better, right? Well, I'm doing this and I did love this at one point, right? This is going back to reflection. I did love this at one point because I was trying to align everything to accomplish this. Now I've accomplished this. Now I have this other choice over here. I know even myself, I fall into that sometimes where you kind of always look for the bigger, better thing, right? And so being said, life and just finding purpose. I've talked about purpose in itself and finding flow, and it gives you direction to where you want to go, because you should always have some kind of direction in your life, right? You don't want to not have direction and you're just kind of floating out in the abyss and not know where you're going. And by finding this, right, when you find those things, the purpose, essentially where you lose a sense of time and self, you find that doing this, you find the purpose, right? And so you wake up in the morning excited to do it, and you're more than willing to spend time on it because you lose track of time. But so true. This is such a difficult topic. So glad. Oh, thanks, Angela. I appreciate that. Oh, I can do some pretty nifty, cool stuff on here too. I didn't even know I could do that. So I can show this on YouTube. So that's pretty neat. I didn't know I could do that. I'm learning new things on here. Sorry for you on Instagram, Melanie, but I can do some stuff to show comments and stuff, so that helps. People are asking about questions and stuff. But the worthlessness thing is, again, you have to know you have value, right? Everybody has value. And a lot of times it's hard to find that. And a lot of times we got to keep looking for it. And so when you're finding purpose and you lose sense of time and self, I think you can get to a time where you may get burnt out on something, and sometimes that purpose. I've talked about, having the emotional ignition, which is essentially like your why, right? What is driving you to that destination? And ultimately, oops, sorry, I got a pop up here. And that why driving you to your destination, but ultimately understanding that, when I talk about looking for other perspectives and trying to experience new things, a lot of times you find that something else may drive your curiosity and your excitement and everything like that, your motivation, right? Because when you have that purpose, like, you don't need motivation. You're just motivated to do it. And that's ultimately going to help you take you out of feeling worthless. But you can do this by, again, reading something new, reading something different that you don't typically do, or experiencing something completely different, or going around, being around like-minded people. And I know a lot of introverts don't like to be around other people. I am typically an introvert. And so, like, being other people, I never thought I would enjoy that. But when you are around like-minded individuals, right, that drives you, that gives you purpose, right? And again, you are excited to go do these things, and it can help fill that void, right? Because that's ultimately what it is that worthlessness is not feeling like you have value. And when you're doing this and you find purpose, now this can take a while, right? Especially if you haven't experienced a lot of new things, or you haven't actually, taught yourself a lot, read a couple books or something. I know, even for myself, right? Like, I didn't read a lot before. And then when I started really getting into self-development, and again, hearing that statement about how, the average CEO reads like 60 books, right? I really started hammering it away on how many books I read, and the amount of perspective and everything I got opened my eyes to really seeing the possibilities out there, right? And when you have that sense of worthlessness, you really feel like you come from that scarcity mindset, right? Is ultimately what it is. And you feel that, your options are really limited ultimately. But if you can get the perspective, find those things and like kind of let it play out, right? Because a lot of the things that you wouldn't really think that you would enjoy, you typically might find that you do. That's why you should actually go and immerse yourself in it. And it may actually be something you're really interested in. Maybe you find new details about whatever it is that you're trying to learn, and that allows you to ultimately, it motivates you, right? You start losing your sense of time and self again, because it's something that motivates you, and that's what you're looking for. When you feel that worthlessness, it's because you haven't, the passion, right? People call it many different things. When you find that passion, it does help with that. And again, I think when you come to other different experience new things and everything, you may find also that you may go a different way, right? Your destination may change, and that's okay, right? I think as long as you immerse yourself enough and kind of get a taste of it to see if it's something you really want to do, then you do it until, right, you feel like you're not enjoying it anymore. I think when you stop enjoying something, you need to stop, right? And look for those other things and look for those other perspectives that will help you. Purpose, of course, is going to be different for everybody. Do you think minimalism serves people best in realizing your own desired destinations? Do you think minimalism serves people best? The minimalistic mindset, Melanie, is that what you're talking about? Realizing your own desired destinations. You still there, Melanie? Minimalism is actually something really interesting that I haven't. I think any destination, it shouldn't rely on anything materialistic, right? Anything outside of yourself. And I think minimalism, from my understanding, right, minimalism is essentially decluttering a lot of different things in your life, and those things that you do have hold value, right? From my understanding, I don't practice it, although it's something I've wanted to practice more in depth. I've actually started decluttering, right? And this is not just your house, right? It's decluttering your house. It's decluttering your phone, everything in your life, essentially that you don't use, you just remove it. And those things that you bring into your life, they hold value, or is essentially you use frequently. It's typically like high quality things. But again, it's very limited, right? Like if you're not going to use it a lot, there's essentially no purpose. But when you are looking for your destination, I think it helps, right? I think it puts you in that mindset. A lot of these things, I think they seem extreme, but I think when you start doing a lot of internal work, and you start talking about like worthlessness and stuff like that, again, I think that can be related, one and the same, right? If you hold objects in your life that are outside of yourself, I think, right, you lose your sense of self. And when you're doing internal work, being a minimalist, it really draws you in, right? It really, you don't get caught up in the dopamine hits and everything on trying to perhaps watch TV and stuff, or go out and buy something new, right? You're avoiding those things, and you realize it causes you to reflect more internally, right? And I think that's what minimalism does. Is because even for myself, I could say I probably live like a minimalist for the most part, and that's just being in the military, right? Like I've always traveled light because I didn't want to move a lot of stuff, and I found that living that way, right? Like you don't have tons of things that are trying to take your attention away, right? And this is also why you can do this on essentially your computer, essentially on any of your electronic devices, right? Is decluttering, so your attention is not taken away from the moment. Because my understanding, minimalism is the same thing, right? Like you're trying to be in the now, be present, and if you have a bunch of distractions in your life, you can't really do that. So it's also involves, I think there's different layers, right? Like even like the plant-based diet and stuff that I talk about too, there's different layers of that, right? So it just depends on how extreme you want to take it, and how essentially how you want to incorporate it in your life, how you see fit, right? And that is something I think can really help when you're talking about a destination in your life, and finding purpose. I think really does that, because again, if you are the kind of person that wants to go out and buy things and stuff like that, the materialistic things, it can really help with that. It really essentially tunes you in, right, to what you really want and desire deep down inside. And I think, again, we've all come into this life with everything that we need, right? And this is why meditation and breathing and minimalism, all these different things, this is why it's becoming so big is because of the fact that I think it causes you to focus on yourself. And a lot of times we don't want to look at ourselves. And then we ask questions like, I feel worthless, right? Because of that fact, because we grow up in a Western society where, you're fed, you got to have this to be this because you're not this, right? You have Instagram, you have all these different ads and everything saying about, talking about depression and anxiety and all these other different things in your life. People deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? And so being said, the less distractions you have in your life, it causes you again to reflect internally. And that's why, again, I think minimalism would help big in that aspect of it. But I mean, there's a lot of different things. Like I said, it doesn't have to be just minimalism, right? I'm not saying go out and throw everything away and be like, okay, now I'm going to be a minimalist. Again, everything comes, you should slowly raise the temperature of your living, right? Ultimately, the way you want to live, you want to incorporate any kind of new changes in your life, it has to be slow and steady. That ensures that it is a more permanent change in your life. Or if, again, you do any dramatic change, right? And I talk about this sometimes too, about how do you cook a frog? You throw a frog in boiling water, it's going to jump out. You have to slowly raise the temperature, essentially, of the water. And that's essentially the same concept you have to apply to your life while you're looking, for purpose and you're trying to incorporate new changes. And even a lot of stuff that I teach, right? You have to slowly ingrain it into yourself to be able to make it a habit, right? We've heard about habits all the time, and trying to find purpose, find your flow, and realizing that you're not worthless, right? And a lot of times that takes a lot of internal work. And again, some of these tools will help you find that and help you align with your purpose and those things in your life that you ultimately want, right? Because when you start doing internal work and stuff, you find that you are enough. You find that you're not alone, right? Either too, because I know a lot of times people can feel lonely, even though when they have an abundance of stuff around you. And I think minimalism in itself helps with that as well, and knowing that you are enough. But that's pretty much what I had to get today as far as that. Does anybody have any questions? I know I've got a couple of viewers. It's kind of off topic today. I know it's something, again, I found on Reddit. I thought it was a good topic to talk about because I think a lot of people will feel this. And even at different points in my life, I've felt the worthlessness, right? And even when I had, the house and the car and the white picket fence and everything, right, that were essentially taught that's what success looks like, right? And then when you get to that point, you can still feel worthless, right? And this, again, where minimalism could come in and think that you don't need all these things, that you are enough, and doing the work on yourself, and you find that you can rely on yourself, right? And you're building yourself out. And that's what I like a lot about what I teach, is because of the fact that, you're enough. And when everything can be taken away tomorrow, and I'd be okay, because of the fact that I know my value. And that's one of the best things I think you can essentially achieve in your life, right? Is knowing that you have value, knowing what you're capable of, right? And knowing that everything can be taken away and you can put yourself right back to where you were. And that in itself is very strong. And it builds the confidence, it gets rid of the fear, it builds all these things to know that take it away tomorrow and I can gain it all, obtain it all again, because I have the tools. I know how to get right back there. But that's what I got for you guys today. If there are no questions, that is pretty much it. I have the new podcast coming out this Sunday, and it's actually another interview I did with Antonio. Let's go. So that will be coming out on Sunday. So there won't be any video format on that one, or there is a video format, but it is of that interview. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what I got. So if there are no questions, I appreciate everybody coming on. Thank you, Yuko. Thank you, Angela, for coming on. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. And everybody else that was been on Instagram. It doesn't look like there's anybody on Instagram. But thank you guys. Take care. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you guys have a fantastic